Well, ekele Chairman, sir, I call it after that day. It's not there for argument. The rest of the guests, okay, there must be people which I need, and I will get or we book it. Upon case at fire, I am not here. Yeah, I get the way you go in. Not in here, I'd rather. Maka, the organization I lead is called the Lower Niger Congress. That Lower Niger is the whole of eastern half of southern Nigeria. That is the eastern region and midwestern region. I'm sure we know that Asaba was not part of eastern region all the way to Abo. And the angle from which we came in to examine the bondage iron was one in which we took a holistic look. What is this Nigeria? Because it is Nigeria that's occupying that space against the wish and will of the constituents. Instead of the union being our project, it became an imposition along the line. And it is the process of reversing that imposition, and if that union has to be given up, we have a majority that is now prepared to give it up. Therefore, all of those who have suffered one thing or the other from that union, that is like a monster now, feeding on the blood of his constituents, we've managed to rally them into, a framework that will solve the problem with consensus and determination. That determination being, if they don't, any unit that does not will pay with its own life. The Middle Belt was part of that North that came against us in the war that ended in 1970. Today, they are the receiving end. If you get angry that Danjuma killed us and Gowon commanded, and you don't go to work out how to keep that battle line in that part, it will progress all the way to where it comes back to us. So, in America on this trip was that from the many years of quiet activism we've done, the United States administration has come to where it has taken a decision on what to do in that territory. That decision is one in which the ISIS that went from the flanks trying to take over the sovereign spaces of Syria and Iraq to create what will be the headquarters of the global Islamic movement, the Caliphate. They were challenged there, but they've managed to plant a foothold in the Lake Chad region, that is the northeast part of Nigeria, such that with the connivance and active support of those in government house in Nigeria, they are likely to overrun the whole of that territory. And in Nigeria, is bordered to the east by Cameroon, that is in somewhere now, to the northeast by Chad, that is bigger than Nigeria in landmass. Next, Niger, that is bigger than Nigeria in landmass. Northern Mali, remember when the militants took around Northern Mali, it took France moving unilaterally to stop them. The southern tip of that Northern Mali is less than 45 minutes flight from Sokoto. If you put it together, you see a huge stretch of ungoverned spaces. Forget expect that people fly flag and do all kinds of things. So what we were doing, the US has been scratching its head on what to do with the kind of things. That's on that lecture. You come to the Atlantic waterfront in what they call the Gulf of Guinea. You have Nigeria in one part and other places. The militancy that has challenged the oil operations in the place is also giving them a headache. Biafra is happening next door. Then the killings in the Middle Belt is on its own. But there's something that connects all of that. And it is that thing that we have identified, our intervention, which has been 20 years in getting to where it is to say, what is this Nigeria? How did we come to where people who are not fit to clean our shoes are now riding on our backs and just without consequence? Our assets have become their assets. In fact, they have become the owners of our land, chasing us into exile, whether we're in Nigeria, whether scavenging in Lagos or Abuja, because they are in effective occupation of the place. What do we do to reverse it? Of course, there are some younger elements who had gone waving Biafra flags, thinking that everybody can see that we are being killed, or that everybody can see we are being marginalized, and therefore let Nigeria go, let Biafra go the other way. It's not going to be so. 3 million barrels of crude oil is at stake. The owners of it, who worked together in what became the Biafran war against us, if nothing fundamental changes, they are going to carry on in their joint venture. Let those who have internet access on their phone can put on your phone, because of time, we'll have to run to where we'll be reaching conclusions. But on your phone, if you go to YouTube, you're going to see, if you search Lower Niger Congress, YouTube, Lower Niger Congress, open it, you will see a whole range of videos. But there's one that is only a few weeks, let me say a few days old, that is titled Unraveling the Foundations of the Caliphate Prison. We've been trapped in a caliphate prison. And that caliphate is operating in borrowed robes called Nigeria. That caliphate is holding us down, tormenting us, holding Ijaw down, tormenting Ijaw, holding Yoruba down, tormenting Yoruba, wiping off the Middle Belt to have a wider space. On their way to Port Harcourt, they are going to overrun us. In all of it, if nothing happens to stop them, not only will they overrun us, they are also connected with that ISIS. Remember when Boko Haram exchanged flags with ISIS? They are just looking for where to relocate the headquarters of that global Islamic movement. And where our project has met with the American headache, America has a headache from all of what they have seen in the Middle East on these issues. Where the two have now met, for which reason I was invited on behalf of the organization to come to address a special congressional hearing on Nigeria. My name had been on the register since the 19th of December. I was getting ready to come. The reason why the notice is so short, I was getting ready to come to attend to that hearing. Then Nancy and Donald began to quarrel over the Mexican war. Therefore, they were shut down, and therefore there was a postponement. In that postponement, things kept getting worse at ground zero. That's on our own side. Election is slated for February 16th. And what is at stake anyone to lose even one day for anything that can be covered is that if that election takes place, the outcome is already 80% determined. The people who printed the PVC distributed it the way they want. They have a reserve quantity that can guarantee all kinds of things for them. The first appointment Buhari did after he was sworn in was to appoint his niece, the head of INEC, long before he formed government. It was the woman that presided over all of the production of those sensitive materials before the chairman came out of the outcry of the public. But even in not being chairman, she's still in control of all of it. It's what she decides that the chairman goes to announce. The polling units, gerrymandered on such a scale that no less than 20 million votes guaranteed in circumstances where nobody else will be competing with them for those votes. About 5 states are in turmoil such that anything they return from those places, because the opposition cannot go to campaign in those places, war zones. In fact, they say they're going to conduct elections for IDPs in Niger and Chad, claiming that more than 3 million people are in that, So when you put it all together, they've deployed Operation Python Dance to militarize the whole place and the security architecture around the election. They've also got the police already told everybody they were going to replicate what they did in Osun. In all of it, he finally appoints that niece of his as the chief coalition officer for presidential election. It is what she reports as the figures that the INEC chairman will announce. To cap it all, having firmed up what would define the election outcome, he knew that the judiciary may upturn everything. He then went for the head of the judiciary to replace with somebody who would play their bid. Of course, the new one had not only been sworn in, but less than 24 hours of being sworn in, had already inaugurated the people they appointed to preside over election tribunals, 250 something people. Therefore, going to that election is just a matter of coronation. The people who thought they were going to rally everybody and take them now realize that. I'm sure somebody has read the 16-page letter by Ambassador. Yes. Ambassador wrote to telling the global community that the election that is coming, there's no possibility of being free and fair. It's been predetermined by all these things. And what is their own solution? Nothing. We told them that elections should be deferred so that we can go and work out the terms of the union. Why did we tell them that? The constitution by which the winner will govern. We're not talking about good man or bad man, or greater evil and lesser evil. We're talking about the constitution by which the winner will govern. It is that constitution that guarantees our enslavement. That constitution was imposed by that caliphate. I'm sure some of us thought that the Constituent Assembly of 1977 generated the constitution that came from that time. No. What happened in 1977 was that from 1975, when Gowon was overthrown, the Murtala Mohammed that overthrew Gowon was the front leg of the caliphate in stopping Gowon from proceeding with the draft constitution that was generated in 1973 in preparation for handing over power in the 1976 they had proposed. The content of that draft was what they agreed in Aburi. The war took place, millions of people got killed, Nigeria had collapsed on their head, and there was no way of restarting it than to go back to being a federation, because Nigeria ceased to be a federation since 1966. Now, that draft was made, and the caliphate was beginning to think that, If we go that way, what will we then say was the benefit of all the war we had to live in? Therefore, they chopped up Gowon and appointed another process to generate something that would put us in this kind of situation we have found ourselves. Murtala Mohammed, the first task he gave out in that 1975 July was to commission Rotimi Williams to go and give them another draft. And that Rotimi Williams on a blank check, look, go and do it, come, whatever bill you bring, we pay you. Rotimi Williams didn't know much law, so he went in search of who could do it. He went to Bankole, somebody who was his contemporary. Bankole told him he's from Lagos, told him, look, these people are commissioning you to write the articles of enslavement for your people and all the other people. They will pay you money. But the day your children or grandchildren discover you are the one who did it for them, they will spit on your grave. Don't do. If you have to travel, pretend you are sick. Just go away. Rotimi Williams didn't listen. He went away looking for who else. Who did he find? One young law teacher, University of Lagos, called Ben Mabez. Professor Ben Mabez. Now, the one you know. Happily, Ben Mabez went and did that dirty job. It was that draft from Ben Mabez that was given to the Constituent Assembly in 1977. Bankole, who knew what was contained, told Awolowo that these people want to use all of you to validate what they have already decided. The contents of what was to be developed into that draft was dictated from Buckingham Palace to Murtala Mohammed, the owners of the venture called Nigeria. And the Awolowo had to stay away so that he is not one of those who will validate that process. The 49 other people carried on, and what they had went on to the Supreme Military Council. They had a clean draft. But the reason I went to this portion of the story is that the Constituent Assembly rejected the 12 states that were created in 1967 to truncate the basis of the Union, that's the regions. The Constituent Assembly rejected the presidential system because it will accumulate power the way we have seen. The Constituent Assembly rejected the NYSC Act. I'm getting to the reason why Eastern Nigeria is the way it is today and why most of us are here instead of elsewhere. Because after 10, 15 years in a foreign land, some of us reach our glass ceiling, we want to go, but there's nowhere to go. You see how they're chasing everybody around here? You don't belong here, you don't belong there, because it's occupied. Now, all of those things that took us away from being a federation to being a unitary state that is controlled like a caliphate. Land Use Act was already there. It is the land ownership system in the north, where the emir is the owner of everything and gives to whoever he deems fit. That military government controlled by that caliphate imposed it on Nigeria and took over everybody's land and began to allot and allocate as they deemed fit. By the time you put it all together, let me tell you what the NYSC, as simple as it looks. The NYSC, the front side of the story is that young people have to go to the other part of the country away from the one they come from, so that they can interact and there will be unity and cohesion. The flip side is that the children of Sokoto and Kano and Maiduguri are sent to Port Harcourt and Lagos, Warri, to serve in NNPC, NPA, Central Bank, and all that. They are retained and absorbed. Whereas the children of Port Harcourt, children of Warri, children of Enugu, Lagos are sent to Kaura Namoda, Birnin Kebbi, to go and struggle between meningitis and killer herdsmen for 1 year with no prospects whatsoever for any kind of employment. By the time they come back, in 2-3 years, 4 years, they are writing applications, passing through those their friends from the north who were not fit to clean their shoes in school, who are now assistant directors in where they've been employed. That has been going on since 1973. 90% of the bureaucracy of Nigeria was recruited through that process. If I tell you who developed that script for them, you may just pack your bag and begin to go, because again, it's one of us for the immediate gain of the moment. And that one of us is one of those pretending to be speaking and fighting for us now. I won't mention his name.
No, mention his name. We want to know his name.
That's why I said I will not mention. But if you want to hear, you've heard. And I can give you up to 20 examples like this. But the more important thing is that what we set out to do, which by God's grace has succeeded, is that we worked out a 20-year plan after the research for how things got to where we were, on how to unravel the foundation of that Nigeria. Because if you're in a cage, maybe 10, 20 sets of people in one cage, nobody is going to escape except something happens to break that cage up. I'm sure many of you have seen this map on the internet. Yes. What you have here is titled Correcting the Mistake of 1914. We found out it was mischief. We went into the archives, broke into the British archives to find out how they came about that. And what we saw was simply